Hi, it's Lyle from Made by Marley. Welcome back to our channel. Today I'm going to be, well, Martin's going to obviously help me. I'm going to be turning this and I'm going to show you it in full splendour in a moment. Ugly cheap pine into a beautiful, chippy, really distressed coffee bar. So stay tuned if you want to see me make this bureau into a coffee bar. So I'm just going to explain my vision for this. It is ugly. There's no doubt about it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get Martin to take this part here off and attach it as a backboard up the top so that you can put your coffee maker. It's even got a little light or something. Martin had it on a minute ago. Ta-da! I'm going to keep the light. I'm going to paint in here. This is going to be the sign part for the back. I'm going to kind of hit these edges with hammer, kind of chippy them up. Inside isn't, it's going to be textured. The first coat is going to be really textured paint to give it that really chippy look and cover up this just ugly pine. So this is going to be up the back. And this I bought in a local antiques place. It wasn't old, it was just in the antique shop. Oh, ages ago. I ferreted it away and I thought one day I will use this. So when this piece gets put in the back, at the very end we'll get Martin to attach this up here as well. And there's plenty of space in there because I thought what you could do is you could have tea, sugar, coffee pods, napkins, and then down below you could put whatever you want, crockery, whatever. So let's get started on this. Once it's also done as well, these parts here, I'm just going to solidly glue them in so they don't come back out and you can hang dish towels and things on them. So in a minute, when you see it again, this is going to be like magic on the back. I'm going to put this to the side and I'll start mixing up the texturized paint. Okay, so it's still relatively ugly. Martin's put the back part on. It's nice and secure. All he did was take that little part of beading off. He used the existing hinges to hinge it on first, and then he put a back plate on it so that it's solid. The holes have been filled. These have been glued. Now, it all looks a little bit too, what would we say, perfect. So I'm just going to dingy up the corners. I'm going to do this off camera. Just kind of knock and dingy them because do you know what, that's how it would look. It wouldn't look perfect. It's lived a life and right now it's not got anything wrong with it, so I'm going to make sure that it has got lots wrong with it. Mark's just laughing. Yeah. So I'm going to just kind of knock it about a bit until I get quite a few dings and chips in it, especially down here. It would be chipped here. Give it some a bit more texture. And then what I've done is I have Annie Sloan's A Bousson Blue in here, and all I've done is mixed some Fuller's Earth bent and ink clay into it. There was probably about this much left in the packet, and this is the consistency that we're dealing with. I would say peanut butter. Smooth peanut butter, not crunchy, right? So I'm gonna, because I want this to be dry and perfect for starting, I need to start now. So what I'm literally going to do is I'm going to be applying, I'll just show you up here where there's not going to be too much dinging about, but I'm going to apply this with loads of texture. Can you see that? Loads of texture all over it. Plenty of peaks. I'm going to let it dry like that. Yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing all over it. But right now I'm going to focus on kind of dinging up some of the edges. Smashing it, as Martin says, yeah. Martin doesn't think I can make anything out of this. He doesn't like it at all. And you know what? I take that as a challenge. I heard the gauntlet falling down and I thought, right, okay, I will raise you your nasty looking bureau and I will make it a beautiful coffee bar. Anyway, so tomorrow you're going to see this and it'll be solidly dry and it will be nice and crusty and aged, and then we'll get on with all the good fun parts. Okay, plenty of lovely texture. It's dried all night. You've got the back piece on. It's looking beautiful. And now we're going to make something really special out of this because you remember it was not a beauty to begin with. So I'm just going to get set up to do the door down here. I'll show you the other door, which I've already done. and then we'll get to recreating it. Now, this is a really good look if you don't use milk paint, or in the UK, milk paint's not easy to come by. So this is the same sort of chippy finish that you would get using milk paint, but just using a heat gun and a palette knife. Before we begin, I just want to say these are brand new jeans that I'm wearing today, and look at them. Yeah, it's already happened. What are you going to do? I don't know why I did it. It was a weird thing. I thought, I'm going to put those on. I won't get them painty. 5 minutes in. Anyway, these are now another pair of new painting jeans. Anyway, right, let's have a wee quick talk about this. So this is what we're going to be doing as our starter, sort of laying down the paint look. And I'm going to show you exactly what I've done here, on here, and the same process is replicated on the rest of it. And I'll do certain bits so you can see as I go. So how did I achieve this? I mixed up a paint, and this is the sort of colour I decided to go with. In my head during the night at 5 o'clock this morning, I was thinking, I want a really minty green. So this is my minty green colour. You can use any minty green, and maybe you're not using green at all. This may change as we go along, because I'm wanting to add some, of all colours, a little bit of burgundy into this, I think. The thing is, I want to put transfers on this, and I've got 3 different types of transfers, and I'm not sure I like them all. So it could be potluck what you get at the end. But if I'm going to add burgundy, it'll be a specific one. Anyway, I digress, talking too much. So all you're doing, getting a scraper, a wallpaper scraper, or, you know, one of these plastic ones are brilliant. Now, you're not putting it on all of it. I mean, that's not the idea here. You're trying to leave parts that haven't got paint on it, and you don't need much finesse with this. You're just kind of running it down and covering up your furniture, and all that lovely texture from the clay, or you can use salt wash, or what else could you use? You could probably use baking soda. It would take quite a bit of baking soda, I think, maybe to do this, but that's not what I want. Because it's quite thin in some areas, because I want the woods to be able to come back through, you have to be kind of careful where I've put it on in thin areas. Some areas are really thick. So you're starting to see what I'm doing here. And as you can see, there's not a huge amount of finesse involved in this. Now, what I did, I think I'm quite happy with that. And I just got an artist brush and my main colour. And for the parts in between, you're not covering all of it, but you're covering, you know, some of it, you know, like that. You're still wanting to keep your Abuson blue shining through like that. I'm just going to take my scraper and try and work my way like there. And the same with your surrounds of your doors. Now, as I said, this is going to be the same principle that we're going to do the whole piece in before we move on to our next stage, because this all has to be quite dry. But you can see some areas here I've got where it's gone on with the scraper, it's really quite thick. That's okay, that's good, that's what you want. And I'll just do this bottom part now. What I'm going to do next is terrifying. Can you see where I put the chips and dings in it last night with a hammer? That was good fun. Martin left at that point. I think he was scared with the fact that I had a hammer in my hand and I was going to town. Right, so we're just going to put this along here and just something like that there. Now, I'm going to dry it with a heat gun, yeah, and then we're going to come straight back, because the reason why I'm going to be drying it with a heat gun is I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so some of it is literally just deciding where you want to take your paint away and using your like palette knife to just kind of get in amongst it and scrape it away. Now, on this door here, some of it was a bit orangey because I know the pine's underneath it, and I just sanded this part in here once I'd done it. Some I left orangey dark around the edges, so that's your choice. I mean, you know, that's entirely up to you. So this is the sort of kind of chippy look that you can do with this. But if you want to have a more of a sort of kind of crackle, if you do this, get your heat gun, put it on, And then really, can you see the bubble? Can you see it bubbling? All the things you never want to do when you're drying a piece of furniture, I'm doing right now. So you can see that bubble there. All I'm going to do is just do this. You have to kind of let it cool a minute, and you'll find that if you run your palette knife down it like this and across it, then it just starts to chip. So that gives you small chips, you know, like small dings. The big ones just get stuck in about it. And this is really now down to personal choice. You don't have to distress it. You could just leave your blue, but I'm wanting quite a distressed piece. So we're going to do something a bit like this. So I'm going to go on, because you get the gist now, and I'm going to distress this door to make it look like. Sometimes I use my palette knife just on the flat side, but because I've got quite a lot of paint built up on my palette knife, if I turn it around this way, it kind of scrapes off, you know, my paint for me really quite. Now you have to watch, you don't want it to look too contrived that you scrape that off. So I always think doing a little bit of a chipney or something like that. And because we've got the texture on it, it's dead easy just to flake off. Another way to do it, obviously, if you've got texture underneath and you want to kind of like bring something out, is you can sand it like that, and you see it's just, and that's a really good one when you're using salt wash. So, you know, you can do it either or until you've got the finish to how you want it. So I'm just going to go on and I'm going to chip off my doors like this and just get rid of my loose paint that I've bubbled up, and then we'll move on. It's the same principle. I'm just doing the same principle on the sides. We'll next film the bit up the top, you know, where the sign's going to go. And in here is just going to have the same effect. So I'll do the sides and in here with the green, and we'll kind of reconvene up the top. Yeah? So I said we'd catch up when I got to the top, and all I've done is the exact same principle that I showed you with the bottom cupboards. I've just done the whole piece, and in a minute, whoops, I'm going to get Martin. Oh, I'm throwing it around here. I'm going to get Martin to just scan back and just show you. I'm throwing it all over the place here. Just pick that up. So again, it's just this, and then into the tricky parts. If you want to put some of this in here with your small brush. And I've done exactly the same on here. Ignore that big spatter. Right down here. And the front obviously was done when we sanded it. I've still got to do the chips on the rest. In a minute, what I'm going to do is, because in here looks a little, it's got a shelf, it's just down the bottom there, it looks a bit horrible, and I want to eradicate any more of the pine. So I'm going to paint in the cupboard before we get any further with Annie Sloan's Scandinavian Pink. Now that's going to give you a little bit of an idea of where this is hopefully going. So I'm going to get on, and I'm just going to do this last part. I'm going to chip off the rest and the sides and everything, just like the bottom. So it's all ready for the next part. Okay, so I had 3 options. I had 3 different kinds of transfers, and I knew my accent colour for each one. I knew what I was doing. My daughter came over to see me in the shed, and she picked a different one. So we're going with a different accent colour. I was going to go with a burgundy, but now I'm going with a pink. So I'm using, obviously I've painted inside, the inside, just because I wanted to eradicate as much of the paint as I could. So this is Scandinavian Pink. It's an Annie Sloan colour. Now what I've done is I'm showing you here just so you can see how I've applied it, and here and along here, and I've put it up in here, and I'm doing the same in pieces and parts all over it, and I'm going to show you on this door what I did. Now I don't know if you've ever used sea sponges, but they're brilliant for adding a sort of not solid but watery sort of texture on top of texture. So let's have a wee look at what we can do. You'll know yourself if it's the right sort of consistency, and this to me feels quite right. It's a little bit runny. I'm kind of dicing with danger doing this in the shed at this time of year. It's actually snowing outside, so in a minute I'm going to kind of heat gun this off so my piece doesn't end up saturated. So there's enough up there, and I want, maybe you can do a wee bit of smear and then you can rub it across. I've done down under this handle, I quite like that, and let's kind of just touch off some of the parts of our handle. One of them can be slightly more pink than the other, and this is what I keep saying to you about choice. you know, it's your choice to do this. It's your choice not to distress it as much. It's your choice of how much sort of accent, what your accent colours, what's bringing it all together, because the transfer I'm going to be using has pink in it. So this is what's pulling all of this together now. And it's just a tiny, tiny little bit of Annie Sloan paint and a wet sponge, and that is all you need. And you can probably do your whole piece just with this. It takes very little paint, and it's really up to you where you put it. So I'm just going to go on and I'm going to delicately kind of place some of this where I think I want it, not too much. You can also do things like, if you can see down here, I don't know whether you can, if you wanted to do drip like that, all you need to do was get your sponge into an angle and squeeze it. And can you see the drips coming down? And then you can catch them and smear them along if you wanted a few more drips on it. I've just wanted it to catch in there. I also wanted it to catch in this part here. So and what I did within there was I just went and kind of like did some sort of, you know, kind of up around the edges. I wanted it to look like it's a coffee bar, I know, but I want it to look like, you know, when you find a piece of furniture in a shed and somebody's been using it for painting on. I sometimes absolutely adore that sort of patina. So this is what we're doing. I'm going to do the same up the top on our board, and then I'm going to be drying all this off. I think what I'll do is, because I'm going to be applying a transfer across here and up the top board, I'm going to get Martin to remove these handles again, because my transfer goes right across, but I'm going to stick a wee coat of sealer on it. So the next time we come back, we'll be fiddling around with the transfer. Okay, so I'm about to show you what transfer I'm putting on it. It's a Hocus Pocus transfer. It's called Ville de Saint. I've had it in my stash because I used a part for a commission a wee while ago. So I had 2 parts left. So it's going to be very feminine and a little bit girly, but I'm going to distress it back, obviously. So this is what we're going to be putting on the bottom, like you saw, something like that. And we've got the other one for the top. Now, let me see. If I was a brave woman, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. And I'm going to fold my transfer over. And I'm going to kind of just wing it with the scissors. maybe that's not a good thing.
Famous last word.
Yeah, probably wing it wrong, but okay, let's see what we can do. Oh, see, winging it is not always good. I'm having to wing it from the other side now. Oh God, I'm way off now. Don't do this at home. Don't do this at home. Measure, measure, measure. Don't do it a me. Right, okay, I'm going to sit this other side down on the floor. I just think it's going to be, I don't want it too far into this gap here really, and I'm already going to have to go in a door jamb here, so it's going to be a little bit backwards and forwardsy, but I'm going to use the top of this here as my sort of keeping it level. So that's at least something, isn't it? Now, what did I just do with my thingy? Here it is. I'm going to go down in there first, and then I'm hoping, because you've got to remember it's very cold, I pondered taking this over to the house to stick it on over there, but we'll see. I might still have to. But I think to save you having to endure this on camera, I will come back once I've managed to get it on, because it's going to be a wee bit of a labour of love. But I'll just kind of try and get it to stick first. Yeah, I think it's maybe going to be a temperature thing, but I'm going to persevere though. So I'll be back in a minute. So I've just laid the coffee bar down on its side right now. I cut a part off of this here, which I've got over in my table, because I'm thinking I'm going to run it along this edge. But what I was going to say was, if you're working in a climate that's kind of cold like here, now my paint's fine out here, but it's getting to the time of the year where I'm going to have to seal my things inside now, because the sealer doesn't like the cold. However, if you're doing something like this and it's a transfer and you've already sealed it and it doesn't want to come off, especially if there's a lot of lettering, and I've got a lot of texture, so you'll see when I take this off, like there's little parts because the texture and the way it sits, it kind of distresses itself, which is really good. But what I do is I've sealed it, it's not coming off, I'll get some Mod Podge and I'll just put a layer of that underneath it, and then it'll stick to that just fine. So there's a wee tip there. But this is going to be quite nice, I think. Very feminine. So I'm going to keep going because, do you know what? I'm getting exhausted and I'm puffing and panting, and I'm sure you don't want to hear all of that puffing and panting and me going and that's just doing a transfer, so you can imagine how unfit I am. Okay, so the piece went over to the house and it was completely dried off from being in the damp, or it's not damp in here, but it's really cold. And then it was sealed. Before I did that, I distressed the transfers. Sorry you didn't see that, but it got so late at night, so I just rubbed those back. And what I'm doing now is I've got some white. Now, because it's been sealed, this is a self-sealing paint. You can't seal a piece and then put chalk paint on top of it. It wouldn't, you know, if it got wet, it would just run off. So you need to have a self-sealing paint if you're going to go back and do this. I wasn't part of my plan to put some white in it, but I think the transfers, because they've got like kind of white in them. So what I'm doing is I'm just picking out areas to give it that even more sort of distressed look. Put my glasses on so I know where I'm distressed, and if not, I'll be distressed. And what I'm doing with this is I'm not putting loads on, but I'm picking quite large areas to do. Like I'm picking, you know, like normally I would just do kind of little, I'm picking sort of kind of larger areas too. And because it's got all that lovely texture on underneath, if you're applying with a palette knife, it just goes on really dreamy and gives you a lot more texture. So because I've done that part up there, I'm pretty much just gonna just do a little bit here, maybe on the edge, and maybe some down in here. Make it look like paint's kind of dribbled off it. Bit on the bottom, but not much. And never forget, if you're doing a distressed look, to put a little bit of something on your feet. Yeah. So that's all I'm doing on this side. And because I've got quite a big chunk there and I've got a big chunk here, I think I'm going to pick somewhere different for this part. So I might just do this part of the door down here. So that says when I get this part done, Martin's going to attach my lovely hooks that I've had for such a long time and I forgot I had. And once they're attached, we'll get it staged up and we're done for today. Right, we're done. What did we do? We completely covered it in all different kinds of texture, even down to the very end when we put the white on it. It's just adding more and more interest. I added Hocus Pocus transfer, and because there was so much texture, it was gonna come out a little bit distressed anyway, and it did, and so I just further distressed it even more. Martin put the hooks up. I re-put the handles on the bottom doors, and that's pretty much what we did today. I just want to say I get comments of, you managed to find such lovely pieces of furniture. Not always. I don't always. Sometimes I can find what I can find. And when this came up the other day for an absolute snip on Facebook Marketplace, I said to Martin, go and pick that up for me. He was horrified. He was like, whoa, that's nasty. But I said, just give it a chance. And, you know, sometimes it's just about reimagining it in your head, adding plenty of texture, adding a little bit of a bar to make it a coffee bar. These quirky things sell. They do, because people can't buy them anywhere else. So that's been it for today. I've been Lel from Me by Marley. Now remember, if you're already subscribed to our channel, thank you so much. If you're thinking about subscribing and you've just watched this video, please go on, subscribe. It's Christmas. And how about pushing the bell notification so that you're notified when I release a new video? Give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment and tell me what you think about it and whether you can get your hands on some cheap pine and whether you're going to try it or not. I'll see you another day. Oh, something wrong with my mouth now. I'll see you another day. Take care. Bye.
Yesterday there was sun and there was rain, beauty in the mundane. And as the light startled our eyes, we let go of disguise. lovely shimmer on our skin, restoring everything within. Oh, dreamy, breezy, we go. Easy, easy on our tiptoes, undercover agents of the other, beyond gravel, beyond all. Hand in hand, building castles out of sand, reaching for the grand. As willows align, we lose track of time. Head up high, now we climb. Oh, dreamy, breezy, we go. Easy, easy on our tiptoes, undercover agents of the other, beyond gravel,